In a world full of noise, two voices rise above the chaos. Ron and Brian. They speak truth. They stir thought. They accidentally help. News, nonsense, and necessary self-care. Join the cult of Ron and Brian. Because the work is so important.
Well, hello, everybody. It is Monday, Labor Day weekend. We are glad to be here with you. What is this, episode 368, Brian?
That is correct.
Coming at you.
That is correct, Ron.
Coming at you. I think, unfortunately, it's sad to have to say this, Brian, but being Labor Day weekend, we have officially reached the end of another Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
Brian, what would you say your favorite memory of this year's Hot Podcaster Summer?
Hot Podcaster Summer.
It is going to be.
Oh, I mean, it's there can only be one, and it is just so clear. It is so obvious to me. Everybody knows I am not a fan of winter. Spring offers a time for me, where I feel that I am clawing myself out of the deep depression that is the months of December, January, February. That there's a moment I look forward to every year. A lot of people think it's the opening of my pool. It is not. A lot of people think it's the first Yankee game I go to in the season. It is not. It is that moment in mid-June when I sit there and I make a reference to summer, and then suddenly my microphone gets cut off, and I just hear doo doo.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
The massive flow of blood to my nether regions is instant. And it reminds me when I was a 12-year-old boy and the wind blew into my bedroom. Ron, that is my favorite moment of the year. The Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
The first time I hear it, I know that the time is now on my side and I'm going to be a happy camper for several months. How about you? What is your favorite memory of Hot Podcaster Summer?
You know, I think my favorite memory of Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
I'd have to say it would be your wedding over in London. Not gonna lie, kind of surprised that's not your favorite memory of this past Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
But I understand your love of the bumper that we have for the summer.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Was it the fact that you were able to combine it with your first trip to London is what makes me feel so proud to have had you standing up there at my side.
Listen, there was a lot of, I loved London and obviously loved being able to be there for you guys.
It was a beautiful day. Beautiful day, start to finish. Lots of good Chinese food.
All right, excellent. Well, since we're getting into this final episode of Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
Let's start it off, as we often do, with Drink of the Week.
Drink of the Week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud.
Drink of the Week.
Proszę.
Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the
Brian, what are you drinking this week, my friend?
Ron, I am a whore and I have nothing to be embarrassed about. That's correct. The reviews that we received from the masses, I know that you ran your weekly focus group of fans across the heartland. You back from episode, I believe it was 217. You said, yes. And people, the feedback from the fans was obvious. People like it when I am heavily caffeinated. That's right. I went back to the cult of Ron and Brian coffee. I'm drinking coffee this week. I'm going to be heavily caffeinated. I'm going to be making coherent points. It's going to be crazy. This week, I am rocking once again the French roast coffee. Ron, I've got a full carafe right here next to me. It is, I will be drinking it out of my coffee mug. I'm working on beautiful Cult of Ron and Brian. And where can people get this coffee?
Well, they can get it at cultofronandbrian.myshopify.com. That is the place to go. For those in the know, Brian, that's where you can get our merch, our coffees, our teas. Merch, much like my drink of the week, Brian, it's the Ron and Brian breakfast blend, but it is in one of our fantastic Ron and Brian coffee mugs. Oh, you're drinking water out of the coffee mug. That's because you're a rebel, Brian.
Yeah.
No one's gonna force you into the norms of society.
Talk me through the morning blend. That is going to be my next purchase.
So breakfast blend. I don't know about you, Brian. I think you're more of a dark roast man than
Sure.
I am in general. I do like a dark roast in the afternoon, maybe in the evening. Morning, I like a little smoother, mild roast, and that's exactly what the Cult of Ron and Brian breakfast blend brings to the table. And I think it just tastes better out of a Ron and Brian coffee mug. So once again, go to cultofronandbrian.myshopify.com and hook yourself up. Treat yourself to some coffee and a coffee mug. Wouldn't you say, Brian?
Very good.
All right, next
that's
up.
how we say it. That's how we
Next
say
up, folks. Beef of the week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bothering you this week?
Overall, I would say I had a pretty good week. I had to really think, but there was a moment when I was clearly irked. Uber drivers that talk to you during the ride.
Okay.
This is not original. People have been complaining about this for years. I know that either Johanna or Billy are going to type in the comments right now that there's a setting in the Uber app where you can say that you want a quiet ride or whatnot. I don't know where that is. I've never learned how to do that. But my intent every time I get into an Uber is to sit there on my phone.
Right.
Yesterday, the lady and I went out for dinner, went up to the great Fort Lee, New Jersey, just south of the George Washington Bridge, went to our favorite Korean fried chicken restaurant, JJ.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Went there for dinner. By the way, I got hit with the spicy shishito pepper. Is that how it's pronounced?
Shishito?
Shishito. There you go.
Yes.
I placed an order for myself. Second pepper out of the batch. Whoo! Anywho, but we take an Uber all the way up, and right fucking off the bat, the driver, as soon as we sit down, the driver starts to navigate the little U-turn in my park. He goes, "Oh, you guys have a really great view here," which right off set the tone. I don't know what he's going after. I don't know if he's implying that somehow I'm wealthy, somehow I can afford a better view than him. I didn't appreciate it, and it set the tone because the entire way up, it was
setting up like a kidnapping vibe, basically.
Yeah, suddenly it was just like, so you guys have some money here. Okay,
so you've got a great view. You're going to have a view of my basement.
Exactly. So we started about the view, the great view. Then he started asking me if about people ever fish, if we ever see people fishing off the water. I'm like, dude, people who live here, we don't fish. We go to Whole Foods and we go to
we pay an immigrant through an app to deliver us fish in the pouring rain.
Yes.
And have it delivered to the steps by my Acme, which is ironic because I could have just walked to the Acme and bought that fish.
Correct. But we have it delivered. So right off the bat. So now he's talking about fishing. And no matter what I say, he's taking the contrarian position, which, I mean, to a certain extent, made the ride go a little bit faster. But holy cow, this was just painful because I'm sitting there, I'm like,
Because that's
I feel like
what?
I'm
That's
fighting
a
this dude.
20 minute,
It's
25
about
minute
20-minute
drive.
ride.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm fighting this guy because I'm just like, oh yeah, you don't want to fish in those waters. He's like, why not? You would think that, like with high tide and low tide, that it would kind of send the bad water out and the clean water would. Now we're talking about the pollution upstate that's coming down. He brings up, well, this is the tide going north. Like it was just this contrarian conversation the whole way up, and he's pointing out different places that he's been to that he liked. The worst fucking place, he points out the breakfast place where remember the breakfast place that I took you and Mrs. Ron to. He's like, oh, they got some good pancakes up there. I'm like, no, they don't. They have literally diabetic shock inducing breakfast there where they will put a gigantic piece of cake. And listen, and if you ever say I don't love my lady over here, I jumped on the sword there because I said that I ordered hot chocolate that came with a fucking gigantic brownie sitting up. No. I could have said, oh yeah, she ordered it, but I could see she literally, and this is body language is so key, Ron. I know you are an observer of body language in a conversation. 2 minutes into that car ride, we had barely passed PF Chang's, and she has turned so that I'm seeing the back of her, and she's looking out the window,
right?
But I'm seeing her back, and she said not one word the entire car ride up, left me to carry that burden the entire way up, which I did. So yeah, it's Uber drivers that talk to you unnecessarily.
I will say, I don't know if you can do this on the Uber X, but I know when you do a comfort on the Uber, the next thing that pops up is you can put in your preferences for temperature and conversation. But I feel like, and again, I'm sure you would probably feel the same way. I'm like, if I just automatically put at the start that I don't want to interact with this driver, it's gonna go sideways. Like this driver's gonna be like, oh, too good to speak to an Uber driver, are you?
Yeah.
Now you end up in my basement dungeon.
You don't want to talk to me. I guess I'm not good enough for you.
I get, hey,
man.
Fuck me, right? I'm just an Uber driver. Why should you give me the time of day? Maybe ask me how I'm doing, how my family is. No, I'll just sit here. I'll shut up. I'll set the temperature to 69 degrees because you're a 12-year-old and plug that in.
Thanks.
I get it. I understand where you're coming from.
That's my complaint. Ron, what's bothering you this week?
I have to say my beef of the week, Brian, is holiday weekends. And not just because this is the end of Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
But it's like a tease. It's like a 3-day weekend. Like you get all excited about a short work week, but at the end of the day, it's one day that additional day you're getting. Maybe it's a 4-day weekend for some people. I hear there are people out there that have as many as 35 PTO days that they need to blow through in a given year, and they just don't know what to do with it all. So some of them took Friday off to have a 4-day weekend. I won't say who that might be in this household, but it was not me.
She's got 35 PTO days this year?
Imagine 35 PTO days.
Does that include holidays or just regular PTO?
Yeah, it's regular PTO.
The fuck? I have 23 and I think I'm doing well. Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
I shit you not, my friend.
Oh,
but don't you think the holiday weekend is just like tickling your ass with a feather? Like it's not a full week off. It's not a vacation. It's just long enough to make you be like, oh, hey, it's Sunday. I get one more day off. Yay. Like this is what we've been programmed for, Brian. This is what capitalism has done to us.
Of course, it's the fact that we were raised in a world where we think that a 5-2 week is normal. When the actual truth of the matter is 5-2 does not give us enough time to attend to personal matters throughout the week.
Right, exactly.
4-3 should be the norm.
4-3, it should. 3-4 wouldn't be
Look
bad.
at this, rubbing in his fucking face because the township of Dumont, New Jersey throws so much PTO his way. William Esquire
I think it's a
swinging it
Burroughs,
around.
actually.
I know. I always try to get it wrong just because I know he's going to correct me on it. I know he's going to correct me on it.
Understood. Before we get any further, Brian,
Sure.
do we want to address the elephant in the room, which I know you've been, you've been respectful and you've been silent about it. We've had issues with intellectual property theft by other podcasts. We've had issues with these two gentlemen before, but I think we need to speak about how it's ironic that the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift engagement announcement came out so close to your wedding to attempt to kind of steal your thunder, knock you and your bride from the headlines. You've been respectful, you've been quiet, but I'd really like to hear your thoughts on this.
Listen, I would love to sit there and say that this is something that my lady and I have spent so much time, so many hours putting together, and then Taylor comes by and Travis comes by with his $50 million ring, and they're going to spend about $1 billion on this wedding. It's probably going to be multi-continental, the
carbon footprint of that wedding is going to be bigger than Live Aid, I think.
The meme of where Taylor coming down the aisle and it's just
in a supersonic jet.
It's a 737 with the fucking wings going. It's so good. Yeah, but it's I would love for them to have respected our festivities, but I think that it is the ultimate compliment that we are trendsetters, we are taste makers, that the Kelces and the Swifts sat there, saw what the lady and I were putting together, and sat there and said, you know what, this has inspired us to make forward progress in our relationship. And if there's anything that I can do to get more people married, it just makes me feel like this whole thing is it's all for the betterment of the people.
But I feel, and you're very kind, you're very benevolent. Like, I feel like Taylor did not have a spreadsheet for this event. No tabs. Nope. I would be surprised if Travis even knew how to open up Excel on a computer, much less use it. So it's just, it's for me as a friend, and a best man, it was very, very aggravating. And then people are going around saying that Jason Kelce will give the best, the biggest and best man speech of all time. Again, I took that as a bit of a slap to the face because I feel that was me. I gave the biggest and best man speech of all time.
You did. Somewhere there's video of it. I'm surprised we have not aired it. But maybe
we'll get to that in a future episode.
Ooh, I like it. Listen, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with him? All I can do is be honored.
Understood. Well, let's get into our stories of the week. These are the stories, as many of you know, we want to make sure we cover. And Brian, we will start with you today. What is your story of the week?
Okay, my story. Listen, you know that anytime I see the words murder and BDSM in a headline in the New York Post, it's got my attention.
Like malls to a flame.
Absolutely. So there's a story in the Post this past week. I'll just tell you the headline. Cheating husband used BDSM site to recruit unwilling accomplice in wife's murder. Au pair says. So right off the bat, we're talking about a he said, she said. Now, I'm going to butcher this young lady's name. She is the Brazilian au pair, but she is Juliana Perez Magalhães. The Magalhães is where it might be straight. If you can put up a photo, I believe you do.
I've got a photo of the whole group.
Perfect. So this is the Virginia home where the murder took place. That is, what's her name again? That is Juliana on the lower left-hand corner. By the way, A flattering photo of her. I've seen several other photos of her throughout the week in
That looks
various
like a
news
photo
organizations.
like you'd see on mug shorties.
That is, yes, you would think, but looking at some of the other photos, you realize she is not mug shorty.
They just
She's
happen
not
to
at
get a
that
good
level.
angle. They got a good angle, is what you're saying.
Let's put it this way: she's got a good mugshot compared to the other photos. But also, so you're looking at in the upper right hand corner, you are looking at the former loving couple. You're looking at Brendan Banfield with his former wife, Christine Banfield. In the lower right hand corner, you are looking at a photo of where is Joseph Ryan. So the story is this. Brendan, the father and the husband, is having an affair with his au pair. Apparently, he is not a fan of the wife anymore, Christine. Decides that we want to get her out of the picture so that he can create a new life for he and his Brazilian gal. The Brazilian gal says, so what are you going to do? You're going to divorce her? His says to her, nope, I'm going to figure out a way to get her out of the picture. Right off the bat, if I was a Brazilian here on a visa, I'm sitting there thinking, hey, keep me as far away from this airbrained scheme because there's no way this is going to work. Brendan, you don't look like a criminal mastermind. You're not going to get away with this. But Brendan's like, no, I'm going to get away with this. So what idea does Brendan cook up? He goes on to, I think it was fetlife.com. Ron, do not go to it. You will be tagged by the federal government. He goes to fetlife.com, which is a website for people who have specific fetishes. And apparently, I've never been to this website, so don't even accuse me of it. You can, it's got it broken down by the different fetishes so people who have similar interests can connect with each other. He goes on there pretending to be his wife, Christine, who states that she has a rape fantasy and she wants somebody to break into her house while she's home alone, and they can role play a rape scenario for her. What happens is they meet with this guy, Joe Ryan, or what's his name again? Joseph Ryan, who's just the poor schmuck who's on FetLife, who actually believes that
Johanna
this is a scenario.
Said, an odd shaped noggin on Mr. Ryan, without a doubt.
Absolutely. I assume he bumped the top of his head as he was walking into the house. I assume
his fetish cranium shaming. I feel like that's really what he gets into.
So what happens is, the husband and the au pair hide in a closet at the prearranged time. Joe Ryan breaks into the house. Christine freaks out, sitting there being like, oh my God, what is this guy doing breaking into my house? What does Brendan do? Brendan shoots Joe Ryan to death, saying it's self-defense, then picks up another hidden weapon, then shoots Christine to death, plants the weapon on Joseph Ryan, stating that Joseph Ryan killed the wife. He's telling the cops he killed Joe Ryan then. That's his story. That's how he's going to get the wife out. Unfortunately, the story unravels by the police. Suddenly, now the Brazilian au pair has flipped. She is now giving her testimony to the police. And now Brendan, who denies this whole story, but he is now on trial for murder. This story is going on right now. Stay tuned. I highly suggest all of you type in FetLife, BDSM, murder in your web browser. Don't go in incognito mode. You don't want to do that because that may hide some of the top hits for you. But if you want to follow this story as it unravels, keep doing that.
I'm still amazed, and maybe I shouldn't be, because the intelligence of the average American continues to decline on a month by month basis. But as someone in a marriage, like, you're always the first person they're going to look at. And so the people that still feel like, oh, I can outsmart forensics and DNA and everything else and get away with killing my significant other. It rarely happens.
And yet there are so many unsolved crimes out there. There are
so
many unsolved crimes that when you look at the the success rate of the police, it is still a shockingly low number. You would imagine in today's day and age, I just watched The Wire, Ron, so I know, it's the murders go unsolved.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, there are police officers, fine police officers who are working their most diligent to solve these crimes. But lots of people get away with murder still to this day, even with all the DNA, the testing, the videos, the cameras in front of homes and whatnot. Still a lot of crimes go unsolved. But let's stop talking about my story of the week. Ron,
right.
What's your story of the week?
So my story of the week, it's about a Tennessee man who was accused of shooting his wife and then stopping for beer on the way, taking her to the hospital for treatment. According to the Shelby County District Attorney's Office, this is 51-year-old DeCarlo Pitchford. He apparently there was an argument going on in the house. His wife told authorities that she was being blocked from leaving, and then her husband shot her, saying to her, "I told you to stop playing with me." He then took his wife to the hospital for treatment, but then stopped for beer along the way. He's charged with second-degree attempted murder, domestic assault, and a felon in possession of a firearm, currently being held on $350,000 bond.
So
it's a mixed bag. Like you shouldn't shoot your spouse. I think we can agree with that.
You should never shoot your spouse.
But to his credit, he's like, all right, I made a mistake. Let me at least take my wife to the hospital for treatment. Good thing. Stopping for beer. I'd really need to know more. If it was a drive-through beer store, then I think that's a little bit more considerate than like if you park, you go in, you have to walk around, you have to say, am I feeling IPA-ish? Am I feeling crushable? It's almost fall. Do I want a porter? Do I want a stout? There's pastry stouts in. Oh, okay. And then
lactose, beers with lactose. Don't forget.
If you've got a milkshake DIPA, maybe I can load up. What's that? You've got a Pick 6 in the cooler? Oh no, my wife, she's just screaming and bleeding out in the car. Don't worry, I'll be done here in a few minutes. And
here's
then
the next question. Of course,
yeah.
How long of a line was he going to be willing to wait on? Like,
right.
Okay, assuming, does he just stroll right up to the counter and put his 6-pack down? Or does he have to wait in line? Is there two people in line? Is there
a loyalty club at this beer store where he's got to, now I've got to get an app on my phone and I've got to scan it because, buy 6-packs, get the 7th free. Sure. You're not going to miss out on that just because, your wife has a bullet lodged in her.
What if somebody long term? What if somebody's at the front of the line buying Powerball tickets? Because a lot of those stores also do have a lottery machine. That'll absolutely slow you down. How long of a line was he willing to wait? I'm going to tell you something. I need to know. Like this isn't like a mild interest. I need to know like what beer was he getting and whether he was willing to wait on a line. Do you think he tried to cut the line or was he respectful and waited at the back?
Yeah, if he was like, I'm good. No, well, sir, your wife seems to be bleeding. No, that's all right. She'll be okay. I wrapped some saran wrap around the wound, and she's good for another 10, 15 minutes. I will say the story, not a lot of journalism down in Tennessee because the story was very light in details. All these questions we need to know. So maybe we need to reach out to the Shelby County District Attorney and get some information on our own.
Should we do that?
I mean, we'll have Matt do that. I mean, he tends to hesitate reaching out to, district attorneys and police because of some of his past issues, but we can certainly see.
This is true.
So Brian, have you been fascinated, as I have, with the internet wondering where Donald Trump has been the last 4 or 5 days? Because everyone has pointed out that this is a man that cannot stay out of the public eye for longer than 24 hours. And he has been very silent for the last, since I think Monday or Tuesday of last week.
I believe that this is one of guarded optimism. I think that the level of, and I believe our our algorithms are somewhat aligned on this in terms
I would say
of
so.
I don't see a lot of videos on my algorithm of people lighting candles and holding vigils to make sure that Donald Trump remains healthy. I don't get a lot of those videos
No.
that I see. I see a lot of people who are making plans for how they're going to celebrate the day. But it does seem odd that, like you said, somebody who is who has this unconscious need to be the source of conversation, to
Right.
be the center of attention.
Be the lead news story every day.
To be out there, to be talking to reporters, to be doing interviews, to be putting out, to be playing golf. I think he went almost 2 weeks without playing golf. I don't want to get too excited, and I don't want people to, and I don't want. I hate to see people's hopes dashed.
Right.
So the day is going to happen. It's inevitable. There's
Right.
two things that are guaranteed in life. The other one is taxes. It's going to happen.
Dropping $900 at a strip club.
Did that once, Ron. Did that
Sorry.
once.
Sorry, my friend.
Does
You were saying.
Does she know the story?
I don't know. We'll have to ask at some point.
I don't know that she knows the story. Because all the references are on the show, which she stopped listening to years ago after the cum box. But we.
One thing I would say, I saw a post this morning, and I agree with this post, and the guy was like, "All right, fine, maybe he's not dead, but he's gotten to see in the past 72 to 96 hours how many people will feel happy when he is dead." And that
he doesn't see it. How does he see it? He's not on TikTok.
He's so deep on social media, because it hasn't just been TikTok. It's been Facebook. It's been Instagram. It's been
but he's
Twitter.
Not on any of those. He's on his Truth Social, where he posts apps and he watches TV. He's not on social media. He's not on he doesn't sit there perusing what people's comments are. He watches television compulsively. He's watching the news program. Oh, he has more thoughts about Seth Meyers on NBC getting a contract renewed than he does with some Oklahoma wife, a housewife who's putting out her lemon meringue recipe. He's not commenting or watching any of those. He watches TV compulsively because you see the public comments he makes. It's all television. So-and-so is stupid. So-and-so is a great TV show. So-and-so is not funny anymore. So-and-so is the stupidest.
Can't we just have a little sliver of hope that he is hearing from somebody in his camp that people are joyous in the street? Because you have to think at some point his people are going to try and do a whole weekend at Bernie's, prop him up in front of the camera. Like at some point, that's going to have to happen.
When it happens, Ron, we will not know about it for several days. They will do everything they can to cover it up and prepare. And maybe they would have done the same thing with Joe Biden. I don't know what I don't know what White House protocol is when there is going to be that type of change. The last one that we saw, Lyndon Johnson stepped on a airplane and said, somebody put my hand on a Bible because I'm going to be the president right now.
But to be fair, it would have been a little difficult for them to hide, JFK being dead.
Because his brains were all over Dealey Plaza?
I mean, I'm just saying, it's a little trickier that way.
Hey, they hid Joe Biden for about 3 years. We didn't know he was dead. We had no idea Joe Biden was dead for about 3 years or so.
Interesting.
Oh,
Billy
here,
says
hold on. See,
Trump
this
has a new obsession with getting into heaven. I mean, listen, again, there are people way smarter than me on TikTok. They've got medical backgrounds, they're doctors, they're whatnot. And everyone is saying like he is showing textbook symptoms of congenital
heart failure.
So fingers crossed, people.
Listen, I'm also
the other thing I love on yes.
No. Go.
No, the other thing I love on social media is all of them just say when it happens or the day it happens.
Yes.
And they don't even need to say what it's in reference to. But we all just have a knowing wink and nod, like when it happens, we're gonna take a week off. So we were talking about this
Yeah.
my bride and I, because we thought back to the 2020 election and how it took some time before Joe Biden, they finished the count and Joe Biden was declared president. And I just remember we were on a walk through our neighborhood, and all of a sudden we heard horns honking, people cheering, people yelling, and we knew that Biden had won. I anticipate a similar reaction in our neighborhood the day it happens.
The difference in that case was that it was Pennsylvania, your state, that was the deciding factor in that 2020 election in terms of timing of the announcement. It was when Pennsylvania said, okay, our electoral votes will go to Joe Biden. He has won the election in our state. That put him over the top to the 270 electoral votes. Whereas in New York, if I remember correctly, I was at home watching TV. There was not that level of celebration because I think Pennsylvania was celebrating not only the fact that, Biden had won the presidency, but also that you guys were the ones that put him over the top.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it was.
There was not that level of celebration. This will be countrywide. This will be countrywide. Maybe not so much in Nebraska and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Tennessee and Georgia and Missouri and West Virginia and Florida. But there will be some seismic.
People. Yeah, there'll be people in red states that will continue to work their 3 40-hour-a-week minimum wage jobs to survive. That will mourn President Trump. They'll probably be, oh my God, can you imagine the grift that Don Jr. and Eric will roll out, like commemorative plates? We need to go fund me for an eternal flame.
It's worse. It's worse than the grift. It's worse than the grift. He is going to be memorialized throughout our federal government. There will be a national day. He will be like, how we have President's Day right now. He will get his own day, whether it's, his birthday it will become a national holiday.
However long other presidents have laid in state, he's going to want to make sure he lays in state longer than them. Yep.
Correct. And also keeping in mind how much McDonald's and other processed foods that man eats. If you've seen those videos of a Big Mac being left in a airtight container, slowly decomposing, his body will never decompose.
They won't need formaldehyde. There will not be any preparation, and he's already lathered on so much makeup to cover up all his bruises. He's already set. He's set
for the rest of his term. But also,
they can't cremate him either because that body would burn for like 3 weeks.
It would be like that fire in Tennessee that's been going for like 800 years. But also keep in mind the number of federal buildings that will be renamed in his honor. It's going to be so gross because his supporters have no sense of decorum, moderation, or anything. Everything will become the Trump Memorial Building. We're going to name stadiums after him. It's going to be insane. But I also
the generation of children that will. This is our son, Donald Trump Terwilliger. We named him after God rest his soul. Like the number of kids that have to carry that name with them.
Correct. And also, I'm just going to warn you. That JD Vance will be a terrible president.
Oh my God.
Because there's no cult of personality with him. He's just going to do whatever advisors tell him to do. And he's going to surround himself with the worst people in this country.
Yeah. Good point from, again, Billy on fire. There was a movement to name at least one thing after Reagan in every state. And that's true. I think you will see the pressure to from not just the politicians, but from a significant portion of the population in a lot of these states.
Of course, the cult of personality with Donald Trump is unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime. We thought it was bad with Reagan. This is exponentially stronger. It's going to be wild.
In the meantime, Brian, the Trump administration has leveled billions in fines against illegal migrants who have refused deportation orders. Immigrants have been fined at least $6.1 billion since President Trump took office in January. with some people facing millions in fines. In total, 21,500 fines have been issued, sometimes to the tune of almost $1,000 for every day stayed past removal order. One migrant, a Brooklyn restaurant worker who was ordered to leave the country in 1998, was fined $1.8 million in June after daily fines were applied retroactively.
Wow.
Those facing fines have been threatened with lawsuits by the Department of Homeland Security, hounded by debt collectors, and subjected to crushing IRS tax penalties. Meanwhile, immigrants who chose to self-deport are rewarded. You receive a $1,000 check if you leave voluntarily versus getting fined $1,000 a day.
Is there, I mean, are there people that are self-deporting?
Apparently, there are a certain number of people that are taking $1,000. They're heading back, probably sneaking back into the country after that would be my guess.
I couldn't blame them.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine it's a rougher time to be undocumented in this country right now.
Yeah, you would think. Also, I mean, we like dumping on Trump a lot, but let's not forget Rudy Giuliani making the news again. Recovering from a fractured vertebrae and other injuries following a car crash in New Hampshire in which he was a passenger. He was being driven in a rented Ford Bronco by a spokesperson when their vehicle was struck from behind by a Honda HR-V driven by a 19-year-old woman late Saturday evening. Troopers witnessed the crash, which caused both vehicles to hit the highway median and left them heavily damaged.
Ooh, I mean, could we be that lucky? Could we be that lucky?
Yes. So apparently Giuliani had been flagged down by a woman who was the victim of a domestic violence incident. They contacted police on her behalf. And after police had arrived, Giuliani continued on his way. Vehicle was hit shortly after pulling onto the highway. So this actually makes more sense to me, knowing that he had a driver, because initially I heard the story and it was like, oh, Rudy Giuliani pulled over to help somebody that was a victim of domestic violence. Don't feel that's in Giuliani's wheelhouse. So it makes more sense that it was his driver. That I'm sure Giuliani was like, get me home. I got to change my Depends. And his driver was like, no, this person stopped. Let's just stop for a moment and see if she needs help.
Yeah, I think so. I think listen, say you're driving down the road and you see a car crash up ahead and you walk over and you look in and you see it's Rudy Giuliani. What do you do?
Just get in my car. Well, if there's someone else with him that maybe needs assistance, then maybe that changes my mind. Otherwise, like, you know what? I didn't see anything.
You wouldn't reach in and try to see what's in his wallet? Because I think I would.
You would?
I think I would. If I'm walking up, first off, we know me. I'm not stopping at a car accident. I'm going right by. And keep in mind, since I don't drive, I'm in the passenger seat. I'm yelling at my driver, keep going, keep going. Because also keep in mind, there's probably been a period of time where, traffic has built up. The rubbernecking is terrible nowadays.
Ridiculous.
People love watching a car crash. But let's face it, if I do somehow find myself approaching a car crash and seeing that it's Rudy Giuliani in the passenger seat with his broken vertebrae coming, probably sweating profusely, so the hair dye is
running. Yeah,
just streaming down his face. I think I could be talked into reaching into his suit jacket and seeing how much money he's got on him. Probably not much, but considering that bankruptcy case where he owed like $800 million. Maybe
you have to figure he's cash heavy. He's probably carrying a lot of cash on him because anything in a bank account is going to get seized at this point. So I see where you're going with this.
That's my theory. Also another one, the downfall of Rudy Giuliani, in my opinion, has been epic. In terms of, you look at where that man was in November of 2001. You look at where he is today. He literally was the most popular politician.
He was America's mayor. I mean, and again, even you take 9/11 out of the equation, and you look at a man who cleaned up Times Square, who got organized crime out of the Javits Center, who cleaned up the city. Like the the New York City that Rudy Giuliani left behind was a much better one than he inherited. And then you add the fact of his leadership at and after 9/11. And then, I mean, if you grabbed a high school kid or a college kid right now and said, hey, would you believe Rudy Giuliani used to be like possibly the most popular person in the country? They'd look at you like you were insane, because they just have seen Rudy Giuliani of the last 10 to 12 years.
Correct. Not even that long, literally 8 years. I mean, what was it? 2020 was when he really started to, he wasn't around in 2016 for the most part. He wasn't like a huge promoter. It really was. I mean, just his downfall has just been, the level of the 2020 Steele campaigning, the lies about the electoral, what was it, Virginia? Were those two young ladies, or was it
that
Georgia?
was Georgia. It was Georgia.
Were those two women who were working? First off, no offense, to work on an election is such a thankless job.
Yeah.
It is, unless you're like at the head level where you're sitting there with
like
the
you're donating your time. Like if you're getting paid, you're not getting, like, you're getting jury duty type wages if you're getting paid.
Correct. And just to have Rudy Giuliani going national to say that you're stuffing the ballot box, identifying you by name, just shocking that he literally would show such a lack of common sense. And also keep in mind, and this is one thing that nobody has ever, Trump has not come to his help in any way. Trump has not sat there and said,
Trump hasn't even paid his bills for when Giuliani worked for him.
Correct. It's amazing. Just amazing. But you know what? Which is why anybody who's a fan of Trump, just their ability to look past the actual man with a critical sense. I love you as a brother, and even I see all your faults.
Oh, sure. You point them out to me on a fairly regular basis, and I appreciate that.
Sure.
It keeps me humble. It keeps me focused.
Speaking of which, how's your lower back? We have not had a health update in a while.
I will say, I've been on some anti-inflammatories. I will say this past week, like, I still feel it a bit when I wake up in the morning, but I'm relatively pain-free for most of the day. And even the level of it, I would put it as more of a discomfort at this point versus a pain. Okay. So it does seem to be heading in the right direction. So I'm hopeful if it continues on this path that, it will go away. I do need to, work on my core, work on building the muscles around the sciatic nerve, because they say that's a good way to protect yourself from future irritations.
Of course. And now, have you considered putting out a line of workout videos? The Cult of Ron and Brian workout videos hosted by Ron, where you start doing some of the work. Honestly, I'm more concerned over the dependence on painkillers. I spoke with your wife when we were in London just a little bit over a week ago, and she said that, you wake up and you grab a handful of pills at your bedside table, you chew them down with a Monster energy drink, and then you start your day. She said you become incoherent at times. We're doing this podcast right now under what she refers to as your good hours. I just want to make sure that you stick around, buddy.
Yeah, and to be fair, I was doing that way before the sciatica acted up.
Okay, that's valid. Very good.
Some advice from Johanna.
Ron, may I ask you a question?
Between or behind your knees, which I do sleep with a pillow under my knees just to elevate it.
Ron is not a pillow princess. You are not a pillow princess, and do not let anybody suggest otherwise.
Before you ask me the question, which I think you were going to ask me, let's do one thing first, because as we know, Labor Day may be a sad time because it's the end of Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
But it's an exciting time because it means that it is time for the start of a new NFL season, which means that it is time for NFL Locks of the Week.
Locks.
As people that follow the podcast know, we are on 38 straight seasons of Brian and I being perfect with our bets. For those of you who don't know, each of us will pick two games of the upcoming NFL weekend. We will give you our advice, whether you want to bet on them, how much you want to bet on them. That is left up to you. But Brian, we've got opening weekend coming starting Thursday night. We've got games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It is one of the greatest times of the year because we will have football and soon postseason baseball. But importantly, Brian, what are your locks of the week this week?
People, week one, I think, is the most advantageous betting opportunity. Vegas, they do not have empirical data where they are pulling these lines from. They are using some because you can't use preseason football as an indication of where the team is. You cannot look at last year's records and stats. We are starting with the clean slate. Week one is the week where the gambler, the better slays. The opportunities here, plentiful. These are our locks. Right off the bat, Thursday, the Thursday night game this week. Right off the bat, I can clearly see Vegas does not understand how bad the Dallas Cowboys are going to be this season. They've got the line with Eagles -7.5. Eagles coming off a Super Bowl win. They have only improved their team, whereas the Cowboys have gotten worse. A line of 7.5. This game is going to be double digits without a hesitation. Eagles -7.5. Also,
Eagles.
The new Go Birds. The New Jersey Giants are going to be terrible. If you look at what they're doing, they do not have a starting quarterback. They do not have an offensive line nor a defensive line.
They released Tommy Cutlets.
Of course. What do they have? They've got 6 points from the Washington Commanders on the road. Washington Commanders also will roll, lay those points, make the money. Now, I'm just saying, if you want to parlay those two picks together and pay the mortgage, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying it's there for you if you want to take Vegas's money. Ron, you also looked at the same lines that I did. What were the teams saying to you?
I like two road favorites starting off this season. Kansas City made it to the Super Bowl last year. I feel they still have a pretty powerhouse of a team. I like Kansas City -3 at the Chargers. And Pittsburgh, they've got Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. Is that where he ended up? Am I saying that correct?
Yes.
Going up against his most recent team, the New York Jets in New Jersey. I like Pittsburgh -2.5 versus the Jets. I don't think Rodgers gets a season-ending injury until week 3 of this season. So those are our locks. Remember, folks, bet with your head, not over it.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Ron, may I ask you a question?
Of course you may ask me a question.
What are you watching?
Ooh. So actually got out to see a couple of movies in the past few weeks. Saw the new Superman movie. Liked it. Thought it was better than the last few Supermans. Don't want to spend too much time on it because it's been out a while. But saw the new horror film Weapons on Saturday with the woman who was in Ozark. I always forget her name. Julia. And Josh Brolin.
The one who played the wife?
The one who played Ruth.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So Weapons, good movie. Like, it was a lot different than I anticipated it would be from the previews, but still very watchable. On the flight over to London, I watched the latest Marvel movie, Thunderbolts, which, it was all right. Can take it or leave it. Watched the last 2 episodes of Smoke. Which I know we both loved. Julia Garner, that was it. I thought it really lost steam those last 2 episodes. It got a little weird at times.
Yes.
And then there was like that little kind of twist at the end, which I get where they were going with that.
Should we do a spoiler?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. They should have ended it when the fire investigators located the first arsonist. There was no reason to sneak in a second arsonist and then drag out that story another 2 to 3 episodes. It should have just been the focus on that one arsonist. It should have been 2 storylines: the search for the arsonist, ending, they find him,
Yeah.
should be over. Adding a second arsonist and then adding the hunt for that second did not add to the story. It actually detracted from it. I agree with you.
And then the one cop accidentally killing her boss / ex-boyfriend, and then burning his body in a house, but then pinning it on the main protagonist. I mean, again, I think overall it was a good series, but I think it really really hit a wall those last 2 episodes.
Agreed.
Also watched the Katrina docuseries.
Same. Watched it. Yes.
And it, again, I shouldn't be surprised. It really makes you understand that we've been a horrible country for quite a while. Like, there was a lot of, you almost forget how the narrative was placed on people of color in New Orleans, after the city flooded, and they were just trying to survive. So it's 3 episodes. Interesting how they did it. The first episode is basically, up until the time that the hurricane hits. Second episode is post-hurricane, after the levees break and the entire city of New Orleans is underwater. But then the third episode, and the longest one, it's like an hour and a half, more speaks to not just New Orleans in the wake of the last 20 years, but really the race relations in the country in general over the last 20 years, and how all of that kind of has played into the challenges that New Orleans still faces in coming back from Katrina.
Sure. What I felt about that show, it's a 3-parter. I felt the third episode wasn't necessary. It didn't add to the story. They literally tell the story of Katrina in the first 2 episodes. Right. Episode 3 seemed to just be more of just a best of interview episode, where they just kind of had people, giving their, random stories, but it wasn't chronologically telling the story of it. But I had a friend of the show, Mike, mentioned to me, he reminded me, Spike Lee did an excellent documentary on Katrina, which was called When the Levees Broke in 2006, a Requiem in 4 parts, which I felt was way stronger than this documentary.
Which Spike Lee was involved in also.
He was involved in this one?
He was the executive producer, and he was the one doing the interviewing for most of that third episode.
Oh, I skipped it. I watched some parts of it, and I was just like, why am I watching this? This is like, they've already told the story of Katrina. But I'm just going to say, the point I wanted to make about it is the fact that we kind of forget, as white males in our 50s, when we are at our most powerful, let's admit, there are generations of people younger than us who were not around during Katrina, who were not, or may have been young children, or who weren't watching the news obsessively as we were. So this, retelling these stories may seem to us unnecessary. However, there are generations of people who are watching it for the first time, who don't remember, or have the story of like, oh yeah, I heard that there was, Hurricane Katrina and it messed up New Orleans, but are going to watch this right now with new open eyes and realize just how our governments at a federal, state, and local level failed, millions of people, and allowed thousands of people. How many? Do we know what the death toll was?
The death toll was around 1,800.
Oh, I thought it was worse. But it was, I'll call that.
You're okay with 1,800.
9/11, that was 3,000 in one day. Come on, way worse. 9/11 didn't get
the other thing the docuseries brought back was the classic George Bush line, which I know you and I remember after all these years. Doing a hell of a job, Brownie. Speaking about Mike Brown the leader of FEMA at the time, which then
Sure.
led America to be like, who the hell is Mike Brown? Turns out
Sure.
that he led the Arabian Horse Foundation of America,
Correct.
and was
Yeah,
fired from that job.
See, I felt that was, or at least that part of the story, is a warning to America currently, as if we forgot the lesson 4 years ago during the COVID pandemic. Of our government is right now being led not just at the highest of federal levels, but at the head of agencies and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's being staffed with acolytes. It's being staffed with people who are being given powerful positions of authority based on their support of a political figure, not based on qualifications.
And they have
heaven
no knowledge
forbid,
of the
job.
of the area that they have. Yeah, like
Sure.
somebody, like, say what you will about RFK Jr., he at least has somewhat of a medical background, probably due to the brainworm. But that's, the brainworm.
What medical background does he have?
His
to be the head of
brainworm completed 3 years of medical school before dropping out.
But heaven forbid an emergency or some type of tragedy befalls this country, we are going to be woefully led by people who have no knowledge of their sphere of influence, so much as they're going to sit there and say, well, we stood out there and supported the Donald Trump when he was running for president. That's what's put them in the positions they're going to. And we saw it during COVID, where America had, an incident rate and a death rate that far superseded other countries in the advanced world, simply because we just threw our hands up in the air as a government and just said, hey, whatever happens, happens. Let's just reopen the restaurants in Florida because people want to go for a beer.
Well, and
that's where we're going to be.
Before, it's not if the next pandemic's going to happen. It's what is it? Is it going to be mad cow disease? Is it going to be bird flu? Is it going to be the plague, which we've seen, pop back up? Is it going to be?
Is it going to be the Ron and Brian cult of Ron and Brian coffee? Maybe.
And then the last thing I'm watching, new TV series on MGM Plus, The Institute, based on the novel by Stephen King. About this secret, possibly government agency, kidnapping young children that have telepathic and telekinetic powers and using them for some sort of nefarious work. We're still not 100% sure. Decent watch. If you're into Stephen King, if you're into supernatural horror, check it out. Brian, what are you watching, my friend, besides the Katrina doc?
I tried watching Stans on Paramount Plus, a documentary with Eminem and his fans. I got 20 minutes into it and turned it off. I feel like this movie is probably a decade too late.
Okay.
It was one thing for Eminem and his fan base, which was rabid. What we'll say 20 plus years ago. He's not, I wouldn't, and as harsh as this sounds, Eminem's not relevant anymore. He's putting out records.
Really?
Nobody's listening. He's not making relevant music anymore. So it seems disingenuous at this point to watch a documentary about people who are his biggest fan. They're not talking about, in 1997, I was his biggest fan. They're not talking about, in 2003, I was his biggest fan. They're talking about how they are his biggest fan right now. And I just don't see it. I found a very hard time relating to it because he's put out multiple records over the past few years, and
True.
all of them landed like duds. There were no songs in there that were memorable or caused people to sit there and say, oh, I'm going to listen to this multiple times. So it just felt like, why am I watching this? Also, there's a great documentary that it's an 8-part series. I've only knocked out the first 2. Fans of Squid Game, right off the bat, I'm going to point to you this documentary. It is called The Echoes of Survivors Inside Korea's Tragedy. And it looks to be a 4 stories that are each 2-part episodes. The first one is on the Brothers House which was it basically is the story of the organization. It was almost like a church that Squid Games came out of. The story is that in the mid-1980s, South Korea gets awarded the Summer Olympics. And what they do is they were relatively a poor country at the time. Unlike now, they're prosperous. But what they do is they start to pay organizations to round up vagrants off the streets, homeless, children, whatnot, and are paid a monthly stipend for feeding and housing these people, so they're off the streets. So this way, tourists coming to visit. Apparently, hundreds and hundreds of people are murdered, are killed, tortured, beaten as part of this. Become missing while under the protective care of the brother's house. But they were all given, bright green tracksuits when they show up. People are raped, murdered. Forced to battle each other. I think this is the story where the concept of Squid Games came from.
Got it.
I knocked out the first 2 episodes. Lady and I watched it the other night. Really powerful stuff. And there are 6 more episodes, which we are going to get into. That and really the Katrina is something. And you know what? I'm going to go back into because I feel like I'm running out of things to watch. I hate to say it. Last night, I spent a good 30 minutes going through Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime,
Pornhub, Brazzers. Sorry. You were saying, sorry, I apologize for interrupting you, my friend.
What I'm saying is simply, I need some stuff to watch, people. Right. Send me some suggestions, because the amount of time I spent yesterday going through the different apps on, trying to find something to watch, and I couldn't. I tried. I gave up. I went back into what is the show on Apple TV about the space race? There were 4 seasons. Yes, For All Mankind. I watched season 1 a couple months back. Really liked it. Season 2 started, lost interest. I went back into it last night, knocked out 2 episodes just out of pure desperation. I need to change my shirt. I am sweating profusely in this shirt.
Well, folks, we appreciate you joining us, but we'd appreciate it even more if you consider joining our Patreon. If you go to cultofronandbrian.com and sign up, there's a lot of swag you can get. If you sign up at the bronze level or higher, you get access to our After Dark episode, which is behind the paywall. Just a lot of great stuff. And as we mentioned previously, if you go to cultofronandbrian.myshopify.com, merch for the podcast. We also have some edgy t-shirts, not related to the podcast, just if you're looking to make a social statement. We've got our line of coffees, teas, coffee mugs, notebooks, truckers caps like the one Brian is wearing, t-shirts, and more items daily as we have our kids in our sweatshop crank out designs in Canva and get them online. So check out both cultofronandbrian.com and cultofronandbrian.myshopify.com. Brian, thank you for joining me here at the end of Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
We hope everybody enjoys the last fleeting moments of their Labor Day weekend. Brian, anything else before we wrap up here today?
Not at all. This has been a special way for us to celebrate the end of Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
It's fall. It is a time for us to appreciate the turning of pages, metaphorically. But it's Labor Day weekend. We still have, some beautiful weather left ahead for us.
All right. Sounds good. Well, let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this week's episode. We will catch you all again next week.
Thank you for joining us for the latest episode of The Cult of Ron and Brian. A non-tax deductible contribution can be made by subscribing to our Patreon. Visit cultofronandbrian.com and click on Become a Patron. We'll see you again next week.